Right, hello everyone. Good morning. Good morning at the time I'm filming this anyway. I've come straight into work. Straight into the studio. I apologise if you are able to hear the construction work that's going on. You can definitely hear that, can't you? Such a pain. Need to do some soundproofing. Right, so I said this on my stories. I answered some DMs this morning and some questions on my most recent post, and it's just led to me thinking about a couple of things. The first one is to do with, it's there's a couple of parts to it. The first part is that I'm not going to go into depth on, but I might at some point, is DNA testing for nutrition. But the bigger part of that, which relates to comments on my most recent post about how can people put out bad information, and then the third part is the practitioners that do it and that get led down that road. It's not just like the how, but it's kind of like the why. And, you know, there's many facets to the why as well. And I'm actually going to record a very quick post on foods on an aggressive diet. Because I had a question about that. So, yes, I got a message this morning about someone who'd been to see a degree qualified nutritionist. And goodness me, if any of you, I'm sorry that this is completely off topic, but the, dietitians, degree qualified dietitians who are pushing dairy and gluten free for all people with PCOS because of some magic that they've made up, and how, one of the quotes, thigh workouts are good for PCOS. Oh my goodness. Oh. Sorry for audio listeners. I'm also having my caffeine hit. I haven't had any caffeine today. So, DNA nutrition. It's simply not a thing. At the time of recording this, I don't have access to my old podcast that I used to have, Real Nutrition Radio, because I didn't have the files. I would love to get hold of them because myself and Mike Sweeney interviewed Dr. or Professor, I don't know what he is currently, Giles Yeo, who is a geneticist from Cambridge University. I imagine Cambridge University is world-round enough for me not have to tell you how. I don't feel like Cambridge is as famous as Harvard and likes, but maybe that's me. Anyway, my point being, this guy is a world-leading geneticist. He is, if you are able to use Google Scholar, if you know how to use that, go and type in YEO space square brackets open AU close brackets, and that will show you all of the papers. You might need to put Yeo, G for Giles. Anyway, this guy is the OG, the GOAT of genetics. No, he's not the GOAT. A modern day GOAT. He's as much of a GOAT as I am about nutrition. And essentially, I would love to be able to get that recording and post it fresh. It was recorded 3 to 5 years ago, where he literally just, he can say it with such authority. My only academic peer-reviewed published paper, because I never wanted to go into research, but this one did actually get published because I did it alongside someone who was doing her PhD, and so she continued in this area and ended up getting us published, which is so cool. I'm so thankful to her. So thank you, Dr. Tracy McCauley. was in the area of genetics, and the angiotensin converting enzyme polymorphism. It sounds super crazy, but it's funny because these people who sell these DNA tests, they quote the research on the ACE gene and other genes. And when you've been there and you've been in the research, you realize like, geez, there is so much we don't know. It is so... We are not at a point where, people are like, oh, we could genetically engineer a human and this, that, and the other. Or we just don't understand enough about so many areas. Everything has interplays. Like there's like 20 genes that relate to one specific thing. So if you do or don't, it's a bit like if you've ever heard me talk about hunger hormones. The reason that something that maybe you guys are a bit more interested in, the reason that we've failed so dramatically in the area of appetite and appetite suppression and drugs that might help with that is because when something changes, when you have a drug that blocks a certain pathway, other things come into play to basically balance the system. Our bodies are so clever. Unfortunately, if there's been a mutation in something in a gene that is super powerful, with everything, we are all very distinctly different human beings. I don't want to go down that route that I was going to, sorry. But my point being is that with DNA and appetite hormones, you can't. There is one gene doesn't have such a powerful effect. So there's a genotype and there's a phenotype. The phenotype is what I guess you and I and we are interested in, really. It's the outcome, if you think of it like that. So it's your eye color is your phenotype, but then it's the genes that dictate that. I hope that gives you just like a real nice crash course in what I'm talking about here. So the phenotype is I have a high hunger, I don't have a high hunger. Now, one of the things that Giles is super knowledgeable on is what's called the FTO gene. And the FTO gene is the gene in the area of, I suppose, body composition that we know the most about. There have been hundreds and hundreds of thousands of data points on this gene, whereas you get other genes which have had like one study. And then they're chucked on a DNA testing kit and told you should. When I was working with British weightlifting with the some of the best weightlifters in the world, I worked with one weightlifter, and she was a British athlete, completely drug-free for life. And she was as strong as some of the drug-using Russian weightlifters, right? She was insane. She had taken up the sport very late in life. And so she just needed to improve. And so the more she weight trained, she didn't even necessarily have to get stronger. She just needed to get better technically. And, she just, ended up winning championships and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, she got her DNA test and it came back, you would be best suited to endurance sports. Like, it's ridiculous. The thing that some of these genes can be useful for is potential on like a population level. If you get 300,000 people tested, and you'll see a tendency towards one thing. So you can see if more of if we did a test now and a test in 50 years time on the FTO gene, and we tested 1 million people and then 1 million people then from a random sample, we could then look at if the prevalence of the FTO gene increased. And if that's, then that would create more questions, of course. But you can't take an individual, measure their DNA and go, this is the outcome with regards to things like nutrition, training and that kind of stuff. Obviously, we have very, very good understanding in some areas like eye color, and we can show what's changing that. But when it comes to something like how you metabolize carbohydrates, how you metabolize fat, the other thing is, on an acute basis, I could literally make myself a carb burner and then in a week make myself a fat burner, and then a week later turn myself into a carb burner again. I'm using kind of quite colloquial terms there. These things aren't things that we can tell through someone's DNA. There are lots of things we know about people, how well people might absorb certain nutrients, how they might synthesize certain things. But on an individual testing level, you literally, and this isn't like a false positive where, okay, maybe, false positives are in the time of COVID-19, when I'm recording this, there's a talk of like false positives. And different percentages of the different testing that's gone on. So you might get a false positive that you have it, but the percentages are very low. You'd want them to be zero, right, or as close to that as possible. But it's not like a 50-50 chance, okay? But on some of these genes, it's literally that. It's like you may as well toss a coin to get your answer for your DNA on whether you're better at burning carbohydrates or fat, okay? I'm quite proud of that analogy, in that it just shows you how farcical this situation is. I actually did not intend to talk this much about DNA. My point being, if anyone tries to sell you a DNA test and give you a diet off the back of it, run a mile. And also tell everyone in the close vicinity, do not use this practitioner. They are a moron. So, I think that's enough information for now. I didn't want to actually talk about the science behind it, that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to do this podcast too heavily for practitioners. And therefore, if I can't have an informed discussion with someone and talk to them about the science and the body of evidence and the mechanistic data, it's kind of a little bit like you need to trust me, which is a funny thing. I'll always reference stuff, so if someone can go and read stuff, they can go and fact check me. But I suppose the fact is people are believing all sorts of terrible celebrities, influencers, charlatans, alternative practitioners with no reading of their references. And even then, the other thing is like some of these charlatans will put references, but it's like a reference of cell data. So you take some cells, you put them in a petri dish and you do stuff to them and you go, yeah, that'll happen in a human. That's not how science works. That's not how we work. Like, you can take a cancer cell out and do something to it into a petri dish, but the problem is inside your body, that's not how it works. You can bathe it in a solution, but that cancer cell, you're not bathing it. Like, if you can go in there and then do something to it, that'll happen inside you, but you may need to cut open your whole body to then pour your little alkaline solution on top of it. Instead, that cell is surrounded by blood vessels. It's inside an organ. You're not bathing it in alkaline water. Sorry, rant. Scumbags, alkaline. So, where was I? There you go. I'm just telling you, steer clear of people who try to do DNA testing and to tell you your macro split or the type of exercise you should do to lose body fat or anything like that. Thank you. Tell a friend. Tell a coworker. Tell the internet. Next section, I just want to talk about why practitioners do this. And you know what? I don't have a great deal to say on this. It's as simple as this. Why these nutritionists, dietitians do this? Excuse me, personal trainers do this. Is money related? Of course. Sadly, lots and lots of people are greedy. Other people just do it because they are failing, and that's what I'm going to talk about. They're failing, they need to make money, they start looking for quick fixes, and this is a quick fix. But one of the reasons they may be failing, and one of the biggest reasons that people use silly tests like these, food intolerance tests, these DNA tests are now being used to tell you your food intolerances. Previously, you used like enzyme-linked immunoassay tests to check your blood for the presence of immunoglobulin G. And that tells you if you've got food intolerance. Utter rubbish. Utter rubbish. Oh, I'm actually going to, those of you who are video watchers, those of you who are audio watchers, just go look online, right? I have a shelf behind me. And on my shelf, it's got like different things that are meaningful to me in different ways. And I found at home one of the food intolerance tests that I did when I did industry-funded research in the area. And I took one from the lab and took it home. And it's been on my, the Mac Nutrition Clinic used to be at my home. I have a consultation room there. And I have it on the shelf, just as like a talking point and just, it's something that I did. I'm kind of obviously, doing research. It's time consuming. It's hard. It taught me a lot. So anyway, it's just like a thing. So I'm sort of debating putting it on the shelf, but if I do that, then it could promote it. So I don't know if I need to get some like red, and obviously I don't want to get, it's the other things is that you have the thing like, do not use this, it's absolute rubbish. And then this podcast goes, if the podcast goes well and lots of people start listening and people start watching in places, and then you start getting, legal ramifications from stuff like that. It's just a pain, isn't it? When I'm saying stuff verbally, I can back myself up in a court of law. You can go back and forward. If you're factual, it's not defamation and those kind of things. So, but just having it on the shelf with no words, that's when you run into issues, because it's just like, oh, you're just slamming this for no reason. Anyway, where was I? Food intolerance test. Now they're using DNA tests for that. This is where practitioners go to. It's incompetence. Working with humans is incredibly difficult. This is why MNU is head and shoulders above most other courses, degree programs, masters, professional qualifications, certifications the world over. Because it's been created by people with decades of experience working with real people in the real world, who have applied an evidence-based approach over their whole career, or at least a significant proportion of their career. And so we know what matters. As a practitioner, we know our own journey. We've reflected and learned from our own mistakes. And it's why we talk so much about the consultation process, the working with the client process, the way to elicit the best outcome with different types of clients. I've got a runny nose. What a pain. Environmental changes. What a pain. So, humans are really, really hard to work with. And if no one comes back to you, you end up having a very high turnover of clients. If you don't know what to do and why you do it, and you want to seem more advanced or try and charge more, this is another big podcast that I'll probably do, is about nutritionists, etc., who charge a lot, and particularly stuff I've seen in professional sport, what goes on, and the whys of that. That'll be more of an interest rather than a helpful podcast. But I figure you guys follow me for more than just for spitting facts and research. But it becomes difficult to make money. It becomes difficult to get buy-in from clients because you're no good at rapport building. You're no good at motivational interviewing to get people to actually listen to the advice you're giving. And therefore, by making them do a silly test that they buy into, especially if they have to, so a part of the placebo is if you have a test, you get a good placebo effect. There's different things. If you actually touch the person, it enhances the placebo. If you use invasive techniques like a needle, you take blood, all of these things add to the placebo. And the placebo doesn't just have to have physiological effects. It can also have these psychological effects of increasing adherence, which then, if they do something like this one today was cut out gluten based on a genetic test, this individual has been consuming gluten their whole life. They've been to the doctor and had all of the tests and have no issues with gluten, right? They just have one gene out of how many millions and millions, and that suggests maybe that that this company has linked it to possible gluten intolerance and it causing inflammation. Lol. And so you then cut out gluten. You then adhere to that because of the test. You then lose weight because you've cut out some food. You eat less. These are why these foods are the top of the list. If I said to you, you're intolerant to carrots or strawberries or these sorts of things, you cut them out, nothing happens. So the world forgets about them. You cut out gluten, and you probably don't even cut out gluten because you don't know what gluten is. And the person helping you change is a moron. So they don't even really know what gluten is. But they get you to eat less donuts, cakes, bread, something as simple as bread. Lots of things that maybe your portion sizes were too big on. Things that we know aren't inherently super healthy and maybe it make you eat too much. They're not unhealthy in and of themselves. It's the behaviors around them. It's our portions of them. It's how frequently we have them. It's this thing of there's no real bad foods in and of themselves. There's only bad diets. So if your diet is hugely revolving around these foods, it's going to lead to negative health outcomes. But something like bread, in and of itself, doesn't have as many negative connotations as maybe as a donut, because a donut has such a higher palatability. It's so much more tasty. It's going to lead to us over-consuming much more than just bread alone. But obviously we put bread and then loads of butter on top, and it's the palatability of that food goes up so much more. The reward for eating it goes up so much more. Our human brains get so much more reward. But either way, you cut out these foods because of this test, and they are these specific foods. And you feel less bloated maybe because you stopped eating a loaf of tiger bread a day. Huh? Yeah? Have you been there? Me too. I flippin' love tiger bread. Hands up if you flippin' love tiger bread. Oh my goodness. The babies, every time we go to Lidl after school, we'll just walk through, and Lidl, it's got the bakery, it's got all of the donuts and this, that and the other, and Arlo just goes, Daddy, can we get some tiger bread? Every time. He flipping loves tiger bread. I love tiger bread. Who doesn't love tiger bread? Anyway, and when we go to Sainsbury's, I'll be like, can we have some tiger bread? And Orly will go, it's actually giraffe bread. Don't know if you know. She does. She goes, it's giraffe bread. And then he gets upset. No, it's tiger bread. No, it's giraffe bread. It's a problem when you've got a genius child. Anyway, so you cut those foods out. You feel less bloated. Symptomatically, oh my goodness, I was intolerant to gluten. No, you're intolerant to loaves of bread or just large portion sizes. You know, I'm going extreme. Very few of you eating loaves of bread, but eating a lot. You eat your current meal, but you remove some of the gluten-containing foods. And the meal just gets a bit smaller and your tummy's less distended after that meal. You maybe eat less fiber. And again, some of us, there are certain fibers. When you understand principles instead of these stupid methods that people think are principles, you start to understand why you might feel better. That's why I put out this content, trying to educate people so that they can see. So that MNU certified nutritionists can work with people and they look at the whole person. They look at people holistically. They do a diagnostic process. They go, what mechanisms, what principles are at play here? And then you can dive down into what normal people see is just what goes in their mouth. But then you can go, well, what's in that goes in their mouth that might be related to that symptom? This is why I'm going to create a website which is like find an MNU certified nutritionist near me.com, so that you guys can easily search, find them, see who you relate to, who you think might. You know what? They could do videos, so you could get a bit of an idea of their personality, maybe, because that's a big thing when working with someone that you need to build rapport with. Who do you identify with? Blah blah blah. Excuse me. So, likewise, calorie deficit. Energy balance is such a master regulator in things. This is one of the issues people don't understand. Talking about energy balance, the flux of energy in and out of the body, the impact that has on the body is huge. It's not just fat loss. You look at what all of the fasting zealots say, the people who are just too involved with fasting, who have just lost reality to fasting. Look at what they're saying. A lot of the magical benefits they're talking about, not just weight loss, forget weight loss, the anti-aging effects, the reductions in inflammation, the improvements in insulin sensitivity. A fast is just an extreme version of a calorie deficit. It might have also some of its own unique benefits, being a purist fast, but a lot of it is simply that you just get there a lot quicker. Likewise with a fast, it's obviously a complete elimination of any trigger foods if you did have a certain reason that you were intolerant to a food. And intolerant could just be simply that your gut bacteria are particularly fermenting a certain fiber from carbohydrates that's then giving you that really horrid gas and bloating, etc. A DNA test is not going to tell you that. A food intolerance test is not going to tell you that. A practitioner needs to help you with that. I will tell you when the research, because I hope for the day when we have some sort of test. I think it might be a DNA test eventually. I don't know. I don't foresee there being a good test that is outside of DNA. It depends on what thing we're talking about here. We obviously have tests. We can test if someone has lactase deficiency, the enzyme that helps us process lactose. Why some people don't do well with lactose and dairy that contains lactose. But if they have a low or no lactose dairy, they're fine. Sorry, I'm just having another sip. we're going to have to do a podcast on 0 calorie energy drinks, aren't we? Because every time I literally take a sip from one on camera, someone messages me, I thought those were really bad for you. Are they not? Question mark. I'm Ron Burgundy. So I've really gone off topic, haven't I? I'm sorry. Back to the point. I'm not sorry. You flipping love it, right? The good ones of you love it. You learn so much just through hearing me go off on tangents. This was one thing, and here's another tangent. You're not going to learn anything. This is just me venting. We obviously have, thousands of people go through our mentoring lab and MNU and stuff, and like 99% of those thousands are like 99.999%. There's been about 5 people in the last 5 years who have gone, oh, I wish you'd stick to the topic. Everyone else, this has made me a real complete practitioner. It's fantastic that someone with years and 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 years of experience in this is showing us insights into working with clients, what happened, the why, the interesting, the just making nutrition learning enjoyable rather than just straight facts out of a textbook. That person, those 3 people, will likely not be good practitioners. They'll be the ones that end up, we have to kick off MNU because they start selling DNA and food intolerance tests because they've got no personality. Anyway, big vent, I apologize. So, why do people go to this? Because they're incompetent, because they are flailing, because they're not able to get people to stick to their advice. They are not able to give advice because it would just be blanket information. Cut out all of these foods. I just want to say quickly, dairy. You can apply the same stuff I've said about gluten and everything to dairy. Someone cuts out dairy. If they happen to be lactose intolerant, they feel better. If they were eating 10 tons of cheese a week, they lose some body fat. And they also go into a calorie deficit, which has all of these other benefits of, calorie deficit decreases inflammation. So if there were certain things in their body that were hurting because of inflammation, they feel better. It also improves their cholesterol levels sometimes. It also improves their blood pressure sometimes. Anyway. And that's why people do this. They're incompetent. They need something to base their whole business on. The worst ones are the ones who literally test every single client with this test. It's their whole business model. They just literally do the test, write a thing, ship you off. There's nothing. They don't coach you. It's rubbish. One of the things that we know, especially for weight loss, one of the things that is one of the strongest determinants of weight loss success and maintenance is working with someone. It kind of makes sense, right? Intuitively, but these Muppets aren't even offering that. Your big companies like your weight loss and your slimming world, with all of their issues and errors, the thing that they've done well, if anything, is the fact that they've tried to bring people together and get them to do it together as a support system. Obviously, inside, if you're in a group with a bunch of Karens, they backstabbing you, chucking butter in you when you're not looking. There have actually been stories of that, people sabotaging friends' diets because they were doing too well. Oh, geez, humans, eh? Humans. Humans indeed. So this is the why. That's why people do it. They're just flailing. They're trying to be advanced. They might be greedy. There's lots of, this particular nutritionist was female. And I sort of just think, I don't know. This is maybe me being sexist, but girls just being sort of nicer and not as arrogant as men. And so I always think that it's them, that they were just, and that this is completely my life experience that's molded this view. Well, obviously my life experience is changing as I meet more females who are horrible, but in general, it's this toxic masculinity factor. But it's just arrogant. I'm the best. I'm more advanced than everyone else. I was even there in my 20s. I didn't go and sell crap, but I did. It's one of the reasons that drove me to invest in my knowledge so hard and just research stuff, because I wanted to be the best. And in my worldview, females aren't always like that, and I know some females are, and fantastic when good comes of it. But sometimes it's just a thing of like the imposter syndrome side of things, and I really want to help people and I don't know what I'm doing. Whether they do or not, we get lots of students on M&U are like, I'm not good enough, and it's become a huge passion of mine, building self-worth and confidence in those individuals and actually explaining them to them logically, that they are amazing and they can help people, as long as they're not getting like 5% in their exams. But so yeah, this individual, it's just like, yeah, she clearly wasn't doing well. Her business might have been failing. She hasn't been taught well. That's another one. I don't want to just judge this person. I'm not saying they're a bad human. I'm just saying they're a rubbish practitioner and they're clueless in what they're doing. Doesn't make them a bad human. But they may have not been taught to help people well. There are lots of degrees out there that just don't teach people what they need to do to actually go out and be effective in the industry and work with people. So they flail and they end up going down. They get sold this dream of a successful business selling these junky MLM DNA tests or food intolerance test type scenarios, and then supplements to then help with this stuff. And also they don't have the skills to get results in clients, so they jump to this, and then if a client gets a result, this obviously then becomes this vicious cycle because they're getting the positive reinforcement and they think they're helping people. But anyway, there you go. That's the end of it, really. I feel like actually this was a good recording because you actually got some teaching and some science at the beginning, and then the second bit's just more of a why. And I hope what I hope is it stops people asking me, because it is tiring, me giving someone the right answer with the facts and then them going, but why do they say this? I'm not Jesus. I can't think of another example. I can't tell you why someone's doing. I'm not a mind reader. I'm not magic. I'm not anything. I don't know why they're doing it. But I've given you an example of why. I've given you the traits that I've seen that are why. But I don't know their exact why. All I know is they're an idiot. What more do you want me to say? And then you start asking me why they're allowed to say this. Did I write that down? No. But that was another thing. How are they allowed to? Oh yeah, I did. How are they allowed? Like, what do you mean, how are they allowed to? People can say whatever they want. There's people out there on the internet saying the earth is flat. There's people out there saying that the COVID vaccine is actually them implanting a microchip into their body so they can track you. No one cares about you going to Little Karen and buying some tiger bread and then looking at the OK magazine and then going home and sitting and watching Gogglebox. Nobody cares. But she can put that out on Facebook and has a Facebook group with 10,000 people that she's influencing. And sorry to any of my feminist followers. I know some of you, we all have biases, and feminists. I'm a feminist, but I'm not. I don't really identify as a feminist. ergo I don't call myself a feminist. I'm just a good person that believes everyone should have equal rights, right? But some people, they become activists in their areas, and that then makes you more triggered by statements. I should do a podcast on that, right? On bias. And then, so if I use the word Karen, it's like, oh, it's sexist. It's not. It's just a well-used colloquial term that people know. It's almost like Karen doesn't have a gender, right? Karen is also not a name. It's a status. Karen is a status. It's not a name. It's something that you earn. And that's why you've never seen a baby named Karen. I couldn't keep a straight face. Anyway, I'm not being sexist about it. It's not just Karens. There's plenty of... The ones that follow me are all male Muppets who think the world is flat and believe all these crazy conspiracy theories. So anyway, where was I? Why can they put out this information? Because of the internet, that's why. And because you idiots believe them. Like, oh, look at this, she's an idiot, she's saying the world's flat. Oh, but also she said this, and I'm going to follow this stupid plan or do this stupid test. Or I'm going to, follow the advice of this celebrity who has no qualifications in nutrition. Why do people who offer so little value to society have such large followings? Because people are too interested in gossip and not interested in facts. And they're not interested in facts, they're interested in being sold a lie. And they don't want to do the hard stuff, they want to do the easy stuff. Like, as humans, we do have these annoying tendencies. So this is why. Because you talk about and share bad information, but when someone like me puts out good information, you just go, oh, that was cool. And you don't even click like, you don't even leave a comment, you don't even share it because, oh, I don't want to, why would I share it, etc. But you'll share rubbish to have a rant. Share good stuff and have a rant. That's the why I can't tell you. There's all sorts of reasons. One of the huge factors of this is in policing. There are the British Dietetic Association and the American Dietetic Association. It's their job to police this, and they don't. They are rubbish at that. Not throwing shade on individuals, but as associations, they are rubbish. And as a non-dietitian, don't believe me. Go and talk to the good dietitians out there who will go, yeah, the BDA's whack. Or the it's called AND now, isn't it? American Nutrition and Dietetics. And anyway, that's it. Too much talking. I've just had. I get these little I just suddenly go, did I press record? Imagine I've been talking for 44 minutes and didn't press record. If I ever do that, I think I've done it. Once or twice bad things have happened, like technology's failed me. I can't do it. I can't start again. Respect to anyone who could. Cool. I hope you've enjoyed that. Until next time, much love.